Hi there everyone. Well, it has now been a week and no action has been taken to stop this fraud and every child being deliberately failed in every school in Wolverhampton. As I have stated before, I have now produced two videos. Video 1 proves that malfeasance in public office has taken place. Everything that I teach conforms with OCR GCSE music specification J535 and J536, and that Mr Smalley and others associated with Wolverhampton Music Service are barefaced liars. Video number 2 proves that head teachers and school music teachers have been given direct orders to fail every child regarding music education. Here I have taken a section of video number 2 and this section is speeded up. This proves that number 1, Mr Edwards deliberately failed Year 5 pupil Macaulay Allen. It also proves that the head teacher at RakeGate has failed every child in her school to help Wolverhampton Music Service commit fraud and deception. It also proves that the head teacher gave the chair of school governors deliberate false information that has resulted in every child at RakeGate being deliberately targeted and failed. You need to watch these two videos in full at their correct speed. Here we have a RakeGate Year 1 pupil. So far, he has only had 2 music lessons. These have taken place at his home, and unlike a school classroom, this was very distracting and noisy. A couple of years ago I was teaching another primary pupil, but discussing this with my friend, he suggested I stop teaching him because if both the school and music service found out I was teaching him music, they would deliberately target him and fail him. This has happened to both Macaulay and George. Now I have all the evidence and proof. I will be contacting his parents and grandparents and will be teaching him again. So now we have 3 primary pupils from 3 different schools in Wolverhampton learning music. Here we have the music preparation test paper designed for early years to Year 2 music curriculum that I have designed. Once these children have memorised everything on this page, they can then very easily fill in all the test papers. Mason, a Year 6 pupil from RakeGate with just 2 music lessons, will now prove he has learnt the vast majority of this test paper. Here he has learnt the basic information. This is the musical alphabet, understanding tones and semitones, the major scale construction formula, the Father Charles acronyms. Mason has also learnt how to construct any major or minor chord, the circle of fifths, the Ionian scale or the major scale along with the pentatonic minor and blues scales, the modes and major scale chord sequences, and finally the intervals. Another 2 music lessons and he will learn and memorise everything on this page.
So what's your name? How old are you?
6.
Which school do you go to?
RakeGate.
Right, close your eyes. Can you say your musical alphabet?
A flat A, B flat B, C, D flat D, E flat E, F, F sharp G.
How many notes in a tone?
2 notes.
How many notes in a semitone?
1 note.
How do you sharpen a note?
Go 1 note.
How do you flatten a note?
Go down 1 note.
Father?
Father Charles goes down battles.
Battle?
Battle went down goes to father.
How's the major chord made?
We 4 3.
How's the minor chord made?
We 3 4.
Can you say your modes, Ionian?
Ionian with Dorian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Iodian.
Right, can you say your major? Yes, good. Can you say your major scale chord sequences for major?
Major, minor, major, minor, diminished.
Yeah, that's good.
Now just to prove that gap music teaching methods teaches music 10,000 times faster and more accurate than current teaching methods, Here is Jacob and Lily May proving they can now very easily work out the following in every key. These are tutorials designed to be used in school music lessons to teach music correctly. Now remember, fully qualified school music teachers cannot teach these in any school. I have just checked out my ABRSM publication, The AB Guide to Music Theory, Part 1 by Eric Taylor. It does not contain any of the modes. These are taught way above ABRSM Grade 5 music and classed impossible to teach in school music lessons. I have also just checked out pentatonic minor and blues scale. They do not appear in this publication. Now remember, these children will be able to work out all of these by the end of Year 2. But these 3 pupils will be taught how to work out all of these over the next 2 weeks. So why are primary pupils at early years doing music that cannot be taught at Year 11 GCSE music? So here are the videos. Please feel free to pause the video and have a go. This is how the video will be used in the school music classroom. The hardest to do is the modes. They are done in 2 simple methods. Lily May, Tia Rose, Macaulay, Kelly, Ashley, Gracie, Millie and a few others have all done this years ago when they were in primary education.
Welcome to the GAP 1416 Music Teaching Method video tutorial. The modes. Early Years Music Lesson. How to work out 147 modes. The correct method of teaching. Here is the Early Years to Year 2 music curriculum. This is a music preparation test paper. Once memorised, learning music becomes very easy to learn. Only then is it possible for primary pupils to fill in all of the test papers. Here is the GAP 1416 Working Out the Modes test paper. Because you have learned everything on the preparation test paper, filling these test papers in is simple. The bottom section is designed to do practical music making. Here we have the top part of the test paper enlarged. This circle is the major scale constructed in a loop. We will be using it to work out 1. The modes, 2. The major scale construction formula, 3. The major scale chord sequences, all of this in the correct chronological order. The circle is made up of 7 segments. Each segment has 3 rings. The outer ring will contain the modes. The centre ring will contain the major scale construction formula. The inner ring will contain the major scale chord sequences. Because you have learned the musical alphabet, we can now add that to the test paper. Here we have Lily May, a 5-year-old reception pupil. This proves all the modules required to fill in this test paper can be taught at early years.
And what's your name?
Lily May.
And how old are you?
5.
Which school do you go to?
St Peter's Church.
In Ensford, Cannock, yes, right. Close your eyes then. Can you say your musical alphabet?
A flat A, B flat B, C, C sharp D, E flat E, F sharp G. Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixer, Lydian, Ionian, Locrian.
Can you say your chord sequences?
F.
No. Major.
Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminish. Root note, tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone.
Here we have Jacob, a 5-year-old Year 1 pupil. He has learned all the modules. How old are you, Jacob?
5.
Which school do you go to? Right, what year are you in?
1.
Year 1. Say your musical alphabet.
A flat A, B flat B, C, C sharp D, E flat E, F sharp G.
Say your modes.
Dorian.
Again, stop.
Ionian, and Dorian, Phrygian and Lydian, and a mixer Lydian, Ionian, Locrian.
Right. Say your major scale chord sequences.
1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1.
Now say your major scale chord sequences.
2, 2, 2.
No, major.
Major, minor, not major, minor, diminished.
This is the only information that you require to work out every mode. All the modes are constructed using the major scale. We start filling in the circle using this segment first. We must use this segment. We always travel in a clockwise direction to the next segment. We start with the Ionian mode. We use the first two letters to fill in the outer circle only. We can now write IO in the circle. Remember, these rings only contain the modes. We can now move on to the next segment, and the next mode is the Dorian. We can now enter the first two letters DO. We now move on to the next segment and repeat the process. The next mode is Phrygian, followed by Lydian, followed by mixer Lydian, followed by Aeolian, and the final mode is Locrian. We have now completed filling in all the modes. We will now fill in the major scale construction formula. This is root 221, 2221 in this order. We use the same starting segment. Now we use the centre rings. We would write R for root in this segment. Before this, we must leave it blank. We now move on to the next segment and we fill in this section. We can now enter 2. The next segment we can enter the next major scale construction number, Phrygian 2. We repeat this process, Lydian 1, mixer Lydian 2, Aeolian 2, Locrian 2, and finally Ionian 1. We have now entered our major scale construction formula in the correct sequence. Remember that the major scale starts and ends on the same note, so we only use the last note to fill in the Ionian mode, which is 1. We can now fill in our final ring, the major scale chord sequence. Our first chord is a major chord, so we can enter a capital M. This denotes it is a major chord. We can now repeat this process. A lowercase m denotes it is a minor chord. Dorian minor, Phrygian minor, Lydian major, mixer Lydian major, Aeolian minor, and finally Locrian diminished chord. So we have entered all the chords in their correct order. Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. We can now use this circle to work out every mode in any key. To do this, we first have to work out the mode's construction formula. For this demonstration, we are going to work out the construction formula for the Phrygian mode. We start on the Phrygian mode, move round in a clockwise direction, and we finish on the Phrygian mode. To work out the construction formula, we now use the major scale construction ring, centre ring. Here it is filled in with the number 2. We now replace it with the letter R. This denotes it is the root note for the Phrygian construction formula. We can now enter R. In our Phrygian segment, our chord construction formula denotes it is a minor chord. So we can now enter M. We now move in a clockwise direction, Lydian 1, a major chord. Mixer Lydian 2, major chord. Aeolian 2, minor chord. Locrian 2, diminished chord. Ionian 1, major chord. Dorian 2, minor chord. And finally we finish back on the Phrygian mode 2, minor chord. We have now worked out our Phrygian mode construction formula. Root 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2. We have also worked out our Phrygian chord sequence. Minor, major, major, minor, diminished, major, minor, minor. On our test paper, we have a few modes ready for you to work out. For this demonstration, we are now going to work out the Phrygian mode using the key of D. We will now enlarge our page and bring in our piano diagram. We have now entered our key note, which is D. We are now ready to construct our Phrygian mode in the key of D. We now have to use our construction formula and work out our notes from the musical alphabet. Here we have highlighted the note D. This is our start point on the advanced musical alphabet. We now see that the chord formula is a minor chord. We can now indicate that this is a D minor chord. Our formula now indicates that we require to move up the musical alphabet one note. We can now see that we have the choice of two notes. We will be using notes that contain flats only. We now enter E flat as our next required note. This is a major chord. Our formula indicates we now advance two notes up the musical alphabet. This note is F. We can now enter F. This indicates this is a major chord. Our formula now indicates that we require to move up the musical alphabet two notes. This note is G. We can now enter G. This indicates this is a minor chord. Our formula now indicates that we require to move up the alphabet two notes. This note is A. This indicates this is a diminished chord. Our formula now indicates that we require to move up the alphabet one note. This note is B flat. We can now enter B flat. This indicates this is a major chord. Our formula indicates we now advance two notes up the musical alphabet. This note is C. We can now enter C. This indicates this is a minor chord. Finally, we now advance two notes to D. This is an octave higher than our starting note D. We can now enter our last note D. This indicates this is a minor chord. We have now constructed our Phrygian mode in the key of D. We now have two pieces of information about our Phrygian mode in the key of D. 1. We have the Phrygian chord progression: D minor, E flat, F, G minor, A diminished, B flat, C minor, and finally D minor. Number 2. We have our Phrygian notes: D, E flat, F, G, A, B flat, C, and D. We will now enter our Phrygian scale mode onto our piano. The note D. This works for both D notes in the scale. The note E flat, the note F, the note G, the note A, the note B flat, and the last note C. Here are all our required notes to play the D Phrygian scale on the piano. We use this process to work out any mode in any key. There are only a maximum of 147 modes. You can now work out all of them. We will now demonstrate how to work out the notes required for every chord in the D Phrygian chord progression. Gap music teaching methods. How to work out your chords using the modes. Simple lesson. In our D Phrygian mode, we have two D minor chords. We only require one. We will delete the last chord. Here we have our D minor chord. All we do is count up the next 5 notes, with D minor being number 1. We then only use the first, the third and the fifth notes only. Number 1 is the note D, number 3 is the note F, and number 5 is the note A. So the required notes to play the chord of D minor is D, F and A. We will now construct the chord F. We count up 5 notes and only use the first, third and fifth notes only. To play the chord of F, we use the notes F, A and C. This works for any chord. We will now construct the chord A diminished. We number them from 1 to 5. To play the chord A diminished, we play the first, third and fifth notes, A, C and E flat. Finally, we will work out the chord C minor. Count 5 notes up and only use the first, third and fifth notes. To play the chord C minor, we play the notes C, E flat and G. This is why we have chord sequences associated with a major scale. You will have already memorised your chord construction formulas, but knowing this is part of the music theory lessons. If music was taught correctly in schools, children at early years can be taught music classed impossible to teach in primary education.
Welcome to the GAP 1416 music teaching method. Pentatonic minor scale construction. A very fast and accurate way of working out the notes required for every pentatonic minor scale.
Can you do your blue scale and your pentatonic minor scale?
Blue scale. We're at 32, give me down 32. Pentatonic minor. We're at 32, the 232.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay then.
Here we have our pentatonic minor scale working out test paper. There are only 5 notes in the pentatonic minor scale. You will notice that we have 6 notes on our test paper. When playing this scale, we will finish an octave higher on the root note. On this test paper there are 12 scales to work out. Because you know all the enharmonic note equivalents, this will enable you to work out every pentatonic minor scale. Here we have enlarged our test paper and we are going to demonstrate how to work out 2 pentatonic minor scales in the key of G and E flat. We will now enter our advanced musical alphabet. This is a total of 21 notes. We can now enter our pentatonic minor scale construction formula. This is root 32 to 32. Very simple to memorise. Here is 5-year-old Jacob to remind you of your pentatonic minor scale construction formula. We are using Jacob to demonstrate how easy it is to memorise this and other scale and chord formulas.
Pentatonic minor. We're at 32, the 232.
You sure?
Yeah.
We are now going to construct our G pentatonic minor scale. Here it is highlighted in the red box. We now use our advanced musical alphabet. We can write G in our root box. Our formula now lets us know we will require 3 notes up the advanced musical alphabet from the note G. We now count up 3 notes from the note G. This takes us to the note B flat or A sharp. For this demonstration we will be using flats. So we can now write the note B flat in our box. We now repeat this process. 2 notes up from B flat is the note C. 2 notes up from the note C is the note D. We now require to count up 3 notes from the note D. This takes us to the note F. And finally we count up 2 notes from F and we are back with our root note but an octave higher G. We are now going to construct our E flat pentatonic minor scale. Here it is highlighted in the red box. We have E flat in our root note box. We now use our construction formula to work out our required notes from the advanced musical alphabet. 3 notes up from E flat is G flat. 2 notes up from G flat is A flat. 2 notes up from A flat is B flat. 3 notes up from B flat is D flat. And finally 2 notes up from D flat is E flat. That is how simple it is to work out every pentatonic minor scale using the construction formula and the advanced musical alphabet. GAP 1416 music teaching methods working out the blues scale. The blues scale has 6 notes, but we now add the root note an octave higher and this now uses 7 notes. Our blues scale construction formula is root 32 11:32. Here is Jacob again proving how easy it is to memorise this formula.
Can you do your blue scale and your pentatonic minor scale?
Blue scale. We're at 32 to 11:32.
We use the same method to work out the blue scale. The GAP 1416 music teaching method always uses the construction formula and the advanced musical alphabet to work out all the notes required for chords, scales, circular fifths and fourths, major scales and modes.